Hello guys, this is Karthik from executeautomation.com and this is part 11 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part we're going to talk about understanding builds in Team Foundation Server 2015. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch the whole Team Foundation Server 2015 video series, which is nothing but the first 10 part of that particular video series, since this part will actually be working from the foundation of those 10 parts. Alright, so let's get started. Well, does Team Foundation Server has CI capabilities? Well, what is CI? Of course, CI is nothing but the continuous integration systems. And the continuous integration system is something which is available in many different software in current in market today, where you have something like Jenkins, TeamCity, or even you can use Maven for that matter. Well, does Team Foundation Server has CA capabilities? Well, of course, yes. TFS has build automation starting with its first release in 2006 and gained CI feature in 2008. In 2010, Microsoft brought significant capabilities based on Windows Workflow Foundation and Visual Studio editing experience. So what else can we do with this CI? Well, using Team Foundation Server 2015, one can build their product or projects and can also do a lots and lots of stuff with this Team Foundation Server build capabilities. They can do something like synchronizing the source code, whatever they are writing in multiple different projects in various different project collections and team projects. They can synchronize all the codes, they can compile the whole application itself, and they can run the associated unit test for those applications. So if you have multiple different unit test cases written in any kind of framework, it can be a MS test or it can be a N unit or whatever you want to, those kind of unit tests will also be supported by your Team Foundation Server build systems. So you can run that associated unit test for those application, and also you can perform code analysis for your source code so that you can see how your source is performing based on a particular time. And you can perform code coverage, so you can see how the unit test has been written and whether this particular unit test is also covering the whole code without leaving any one of the branches of the particular test cases. So it is pretty important that you do code coverage for your application, and that's available out of the box in Team Foundation Server build system, so you can do that as well. And then you can also release the builds on the file server. So you can deploy the application's build in any one of the shared file server or within the server itself if you want to. And so that the team can take this particular build and they can start doing installation of their build in their machines, or your continuous integration system also has capability to deploy the build at the same time perform the installations if you have written some kind of PowerShell scripts. Well, we'll talk about them in upcoming videos of this particular video series, but this is how you can do the release build on the file server. And you can also publish the build report. So whatever you have built, what is the build log and all the build reports, you can publish that with the build system of Team Foundation Server. And with Team Foundation Server 2015's new feature, one can also perform build for cross platforms like iOS or Android and Linux, and all those operating systems are supported by Team Foundation Server 2015. Team Foundation Server 2015 also introduced auditing of build definitions, meaning until Team Foundation Server 2013, if you have a build definitions and if somebody edit that particular build definitions and if they try to run that and if there happens any failure, you will not have any auditing of the build definitions changes, because those build definitions will not have any kind of versioning systems and there won't be any kind of auditing of who made the changes of those build definitions and all those stuffs. Whereas in 2015 you have a complete auditing of the build definition out of the box. So this is one of the cool feature, most requested feature in Team Foundation Server, and it's there right now in 2015. All right, so what are the different types of builds available in Team Foundation Server? So till Team Foundation Server 2013, meaning TFS 2010, 2012, and 2013, it has only one kind of build definitions, or the build definitions. Why I'm saying suddenly the build definition here, we'll talk about the build definition in upcoming videos of this video series, but just stay informed that there is something called build definitions, which is actually a kind of procedure of how you can build your application. But as of now, just keep this in mind that there are some types of build definition available. Till 2013, there is a kind of build definition available, and that build definition is called as XAML build. So XAML build was the one which was there till 2013, and starting from Team Foundation Server 2015, Microsoft introduced a new way of building application by supporting multiple platforms like Windows, iOS, Android, and it even supports languages like Java, or by also with Java you can support Ant, Maven, or Gradle, as I already told, and also it supports Linux. So this kind of build definition is called as VNext. So we'll discuss about XAML build definitions and VNext build definitions in upcoming videos of this video series. But as of now, just keep informed that these are the two types of build definitions available in Team Foundation Server 2015. So is build supported in Visual Studio Online? Well, of course, Visual Studio Online is one of the online version of Visual Studio Team Foundation Server where you can deploy the codes of your project. Well, is the build supported in VSO? Of course, yes. Visual Studio Online also supports building of your application on the cloud, as you can see here in the diagram. So do we need to install anything other than Team Foundation Server in our machines to perform the build operations? Yep. Team Foundation Server 2015 requires some prerequisite softwares to be installed in our machine or machines to perform build operations. And they are, for XAML build, we need to have something called a build controller and a build agent. So this build agent can be any number of build agents, and build controller can be one or two, depends upon what load you have, but you can associate a build controller to only one collection. Meaning if you have a default collection, then you can associate the default collection with one controller, and this controller will also have multiple different agents, and these agents should be registered with that particular build controller. Meaning if you register a build agent, let's say build agent 1, with this particular build controller, then that particular agent 1 is always a servant for that particular controller. So he cannot be delegated to do some other work with for some other controllers, which is not possible. So it is kind of strict rules here. So that's how in XAML world it works. So this is how you can do. I mean, if you have a build controllers, you will have set of build agents, and that agent can be in a local machine or in a remote machines, and that has to be registered only with one controller. So you cannot use that same agent which is already registered with some other controller and to perform an operation. Of course, it cannot be done. So that is for the XAML environment. And for the VNext, you will have something called agent pools, meaning you'll have multiple different agents. You can create them, and there will be one which is a default agent pool, which is there available out of the box with Visual Studio Team Foundation Server 2015. But you can also create multiple different agent pools, but here there is nothing called a controller kind of concepts. It will automatically register with the Team Foundation server using orchestric way, but that's taken care automatically by Team Foundation server 2015. And the good news is there is no servant client kind of stuff here, because your agent is free to be used by any kind of builds if it want to. So the build definition will automatically pick up any available agents, and it will try to use that particular agent to perform the build operation. So that's the greatest leverage you have in VNext build. All right, so let's see them in action in next video, so that stay tuned till then. We can see more about all of them we discussed in these slides. So thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day. Hello guys, this is Karthik from XAML and this is part 12 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part, we're going to talk about setting environment ready for XAML builds in Team Foundation Server 2015. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 11, since this part is going to be a continuation of that part. So let's get started. XAML builds in Team Foundation Server 2015. So to run a XAML build, we need to have a build controller and build agent, as we already discussed in our previous video of this particular video series. And how to install it? Well, installation can be done fairly very easily with the Team Foundation Server administration console as shown below. And this is the console you'll have with the Team Foundation Server administration console, and where you can register your build controller, and also you can create build agents. So you can create multiple agents depend upon your load, and you can also register those agents with your build controller. So let's see this in action. So for that, first I'm going to open the Team Foundation Server administration console. So let me open that. All right, so it's just going to open the Team Foundation Server administration console. All right, so as you can see here, we have this particular application tier and all those options, so you can just minimize that. And there is an additional tools and components section. And this section has got this particular XAML build configuration. So you can configure your build right from here. So as you can see, currently I don't have any kind of build controller, and it says like each build controller manages sets a build agent. So each build agent must be assigned to a build controller, but the controller does not have to be on the same host machine. So you have the leverage of that. So the first thing we need to do is to create a controller. So I'm going to hit this new controller, and you can see that it brings me up a box, and it says whether you want to give this name for your default controller. Of course, let this be the default controller name, so I don't really care about it, but you can give some description. If you have multiple controller, you may sometime get messed up with that. So you can say that the controller running in TFS machine, or maybe you can say TFS server machine, because this is my domain operating system. At the same time, I'm running this controller on the same AD, at the same time, same TFS server operating system, which is completely not recommended in real-time scenario, but still I'm doing it because I have only one machine, so I'm just restricted to that particular stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say okay. So you don't really have to care about any of these version control paths for the custom assemblies, or if you want to specify the default to number of enabled agents. Of course, whatever agents you have, it will automatically default to that. So let this be here, and it also, you can also specify the maximum number of agents this controller can support. And I'm going to say this build controller service is enabled, so that this will start as a service in our services.msc. And I'm going to hit OK. So our new controller has been created, and it is stopped right now. So let's restart this. So if it doesn't work out, just try to restart this particular build service configuration, and you can see that this particular default controller is now started. Right, so now our default controller is ready to go, and we need to next create the new agent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this link, and it will show again the display name for this particular agent. So it is default agent, which is nothing but for the server, and you can add the description if you want to. and it will say which controller you want to run. So it has a controller already available, which is nothing but the default controller. And the computer name is server is okay, and where you need to see the working directory of that particular agent. So it is available here. So your system drive, your builds, and the build agent ID, and the build definition path. And it is saying the build agent service is enabled, so let it be, and I'm gonna hit OK. So once I do that, it is automatically initializing, and it automatically set itself to that particular controller. So it is pretty much ready to go right now. And you can also see its property. It again brings me up the same stuff even in here in the controller, right? So this is how you can do a very simple configuration of your XAML build in Team Foundation Server Administration Console. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day. Hello, guys. This is Karthik from executeautomation.com, and this is part 13 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part, we're going to talk about creating XAML build definitions and executing it in Team Foundation Server 2015. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 12, since this part is going to be a continuation of that part. So let's get started. What is build definitions? Well, build definition provides an interface that lets the user define the build steps and the build parameters needed for the user's build. So the build can be defined to be on demand, a rolling, or a continuous integration build. So it can be of any type. So this is what is a build definitions, where each check-in causes a build to be queued accordingly to its priority. So this is the greatest benefit of a build definition. So you can specify that once a developer check-ins their code in their applications, then automatically this particular build definitions will trigger a build in the build server, and your build server will make a build of your application ready. So this way you can also see that how a developer check-ins their code and how the build is happening and how the code is being transformed into your workable application. So if there happens any issues in your code check-in of your developers, then developers will easily know that, okay, so because of my check-in there is some break happened. So there won't be much greatest breaking changes happening if there is this kind of continuous integration system in the build definitions defined already. So that is the greatest benefit of continuous integration system as a whole. So developer will come to know about their breaking changes as quick as possible once the build is available and once the check-in is done. All right, so this is called as build definitions in Team Foundation Server. And how to create it? Well, build definitions can be created using Visual Studio Team Explorer, or with the introduction of Team Foundation Server 2015, we can also do this in Team Foundation Server 2015 web interface. So you can create the build definition in both these places. So until Visual Studio 2013, which is nothing but 2010, 2012, 2013, you can create build definition only in Visual Studio Team Explorer, whereas from Team Foundation Server 2015, we can also create build definitions in Team Foundation Server Web Edition. All right, so let's see it in action. So for that, I'm going to open the Visual Studio. So let me open the Visual Studio 2015 Enterprise in my machine. All right, so Visual Studio has opened, and now let's select our team project, which is nothing but our employee project. So it seems like that employee project is already selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this particular option, builds. So let's select that. And you can see that currently the build definitions, there are two kinds of stuffs available. One is the build definitions and another one is the XAML build definition. So this build definition is something which is otherwise called as the VNEXT of Team Foundation Server 2015. So we'll discuss about this in next video of this particular video series. but currently we're going to deal with this guy, the XAML build definition. So I'm going to go here, and you can see there is an option called new build definitions. So you can also see there is an action, and you can see manage build controllers. Remember, in our last video of this video series, we created this build controller, default controller, and default agent. So that's where you can see this guy, the actions, manage build controller. So if you select this particular option, you can see that it automatically shows you the build controller as default controller and default agent. So as you recollect, this is the name of our controller, which is nothing but the default controller server, and this is the name of our agent, default agent hyphen server. And that's exactly what is listed in here in the manage controllers option. And you can also see the properties which are you saw in this particular Team Foundation Server administration console. So I'm going to just close this thing. All right. And then I'm going to close this window as well. Great. So now we are ready to create our new build definitions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this link, and you can see that it will show you a window which is pretty easy and easy to navigate, because whatever you see here is pretty understandable as well. So you can see that the first tab here is a general tab, and it says what is the name of this particular build definition and what is the description you want to give, and do you want to be this particular build definitions as enabled or passed or disabled. So of course we're going to create it for the first time, so I want it to be enabled. So I'm going to give it a name. So maybe I'm going to give this a XAML build for employee app, and we can give the description as well. This build def is for XAML. All right. And then I'm going to go to this trigger. This trigger is a very interesting part, and this is where the continuous integration comes in. And you can see that you can select the trigger based upon the actions. So the actions here are, do you want to perform this build trigger by manually triggering it by clicking the Q new build? So we'll talk about the Q new build in a minute. So this is what it is, the manual check in and triggering the build automatically. So this trigger, the manual trigger, will be triggered only if you click the Q new build manually. And there is one more option called continuous integration, which means once your developer checks in the code, then this build will be triggered automatically by your build system. So this is what is the continuous integration. Or do you want to make a rolling build? So you accumulate all the check-ins until prior build finishes, and then you perform that. Or do you want to make a gated check-in, so accepts check-in only if the submitted check-in check changes, merges, and builds successfully? So do you want to make it as a gated, or do you want to schedule it for a particular time period? So as of now, I'm going to select the manual so that I can do a manual build instead of doing any one of these trigger options. So let this be manual for now. And then the next tab is a source setting tab. Pretty interesting and pretty awesome, because this is where your source code is going to be sitting, right? And you can see that there is two options. One is active and another is choked. And this active is where your actual source directory sits in, and your application will fall under this particular directory. So you can actually see what is this particular option. So you can also select this. So this is where your application is coming. So this is where your source code of your application is available, and that's the one it is listed. And the source directory is, of course, this is the agent source directory where you want to put your source code. So this is the source setting of your Team Foundation server's XAML build. All right. And oops, sorry, the next thing before I did this I just clicked the save, that's why. All right, and the next thing is the build defaults. So where you want to run this particular build. So as of now, we need to specify which build controller you're going to run. So I'm going to select this default controller, and instead of this UNC path, I'm going to select this to copy build output to the server option. So now the warning symbol is gone. And the next tab is the process tab. And here you can specify a lot of details, something like do you want to clean your workspace before your execution, or do you need to get some kind of versions, or do you want to label the source, or which project you're going to execute. That's pretty important. It is, I don't know, it should be selected automatically. If it is not selected, you can click this ellipsis and you can select your project for the solutions. I think the reason why it is not selected is because I have not opened any one of the solution in my solution explorer. That's the reason. If I have already opened, this particular project will be automatically appearing in here. So you don't have to manually do this. But as of now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my employee application. All right, so you can see that the particular application appears here, and you can specify the configurations if you want to, but as of now there is no configuration, so I'm going to just close this. And it also says that do you want to do a clean build. So before building, it just choose a clean, and then it builds the applications and then perform the operation. And also you can see there is an advanced options where you can specify the ms build stuffs. So it is automatic. Currently it is in auto state. You can also select this to x86 or what kind of platform it is. So all those things are there. As of now, I'm not going to deal with any one of them because these stuffs are going to be dealt in greater detail in another video of this particular execute automation channel, where we will be creating some additional stuffs, something like that. So as of now, I'm just going to leave this guy. And then for the test and the advanced, all those things, probably we're going to deal them a later video of this particular video series. So I'm just going to save this particular build definition. Before doing that, the last one is the retention policy. So how long you're going to keep this particular build definition. So it says that keep 10 latest, or maybe you can maybe keep 10 latest of the partially succeeded or something like that. But as of now, I'm just going to be not selecting any one of them. And then I'm just going to save this particular build definition. So the build definition is saved, and let's close this guy and let's go to the team explorer, and you can see that this time I got this option, XAML build for employee application. So now if I try to run this particular build definition, it will run. So let's try to see how it works. So for running this, what I have to do is I need to right click this, and you can see there's an option called queue new build. So this is where you can queue your build. So if I click this particular option, it will say that I'm going to execute this in this particular controller, and do you want me to queue? And I'm going to say okay, just queue this guy. So if I queue this, you can see that the build is actually queued in here, and it says just start 20 seconds before. And if I double click this, you can see that this is actually opening up in a Team Foundation server web, and it shows me some stuffs here. This is pretty interesting part here, and you can see that it's running for like 15 seconds or 16 seconds, 17 seconds. Pretty great. And you can see the summary of this, what's happening, and there's an artifacts where it shows the drop folder uh, of your application source code. I mean your application exe. And let's go to this log again, and it says that runs on the default agent. Remember the one which we created? That's where it is running actually. It should be running this time, but there will be a failure of course because of the test, but it's okay for now. We'll talk more about that in upcoming videos of this video series. But as of now, our intention is to see how to create a build definition and how to execute this and see how it works. And this is where the build will actually completed, and currently the build says it is partially succeeded. And let's go to the artifacts. And now if I do a explore here, you can see that I will have my exes or the DLLs of the particular projects. So this is great. And since I have a web service, it is also being shown here as published websites. All right, great. I'm just close this guy. And you can also download this if you want to. You can see that the drop is actually downloading. It's downloaded already. And then you can go to the summary, and it says that the test actually failed. That's what I was saying, that this test will actually fail because I made this intentionally. That's why I said that the test will fail, and that's the reason that the build partially succeeded. It says that the build got succeeded, but due to the failure of the build's test, it is partially succeeded. So you can also see the logs here, and you can see the diagnostic informations, and it also says that this particular test has got failed, right? So now your build is ready, and this is how you can actually create a build definition and execute this in Team Foundation server. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day.
Hi, this is Karthik from XAML and this is part 14 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part, we're going to talk about setting environment ready for VNEXT build in Team Foundation Server 2015. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 12 and 13, since this part will have some similarities and takeovers from those two parts. So let's get started. VNext, what is it? Well, VNext is a new type of build system introduced by Microsoft in Team Foundation Server 2015. If you're wondering where VNext menu is in your Team Foundation Server 2015 web portal, of course you can't find it, but it is just a terminology which is being used for introducing the new build system, but it is yet a build system. You can't find the VNext menu anywhere in the Team Foundation Server 2015 web portal. Unlike earlier XAML build definition, the new build system is task-based, so you can create a lot of tasks using this VNext build system. And this VNext build system is very easy to customize the build system. It's very, very easy because it has a rich UI, which is super cool. And it also supports cross-platforms like Linux and iOS. You can also audit the build definitions. Unlike the previous XAML build definitions where you can't really perform the auditing of the build definitions, who changed what, in this build definition system, in this new build system, you can of course do a auditing of your build definitions. And also it works with the existing build system like the XAML build definitions. So the legacy XAML build definitions are not left behind. It is still supported by the new build system introduced by Microsoft TFS 2015. So what's the difference between the new build system and the XAML build definitions? Well, the VNext build agents are not associated with a particular controller, because here there is no such concepts like a controller and an agent. Here it is called as the agent pools. So you can have multiple number of agents within a particular team collections. Whereas in your previous XAML build definitions, you had a build agent and controller relationships, and also the particular build agent, if it is associated with a controller, then that particular agent cannot be used with any other build controllers in your team system. The agents also run in a queue per collections. So that's one of the greatest super cool feature as well. And you can have any number of build agents for a collection. That's also a great news. And you can set the capabilities and demands for the agent, meaning you can set the capabilities like which operating system you're running and which version of .NET frameworks you're running. All those capabilities can be set for the particular agent as well. So how to create it? The new build system can be configured by creating the agent pools and associating the agents with the build definitions. So let's see this in action. Alright, so let's start configuring our Team Foundation Server 2015 agent pools and agent queues. So for that, I'm going to first go to my Team Foundation Server web, as you can see here, and then I'm going to click the control panel. So for that, I'm going to go to this gear icon. I'm going to click that, and that's going to bring me up the admin panel. And here you can see there is a tab called Agent Pool. So I'm going to click that tab, and as you can see, it brings me up a default agent pool, which is automatically available out of the box with the Team Foundation Server 2015. So I'm not going to deal with this particular agent pool. Rather, I'm going to create a new agent pool. So for creating a new agent pool here, I'm going to click this new pool, and let's click this, and let's give a name for this agent pool. So the name I'm going to give in this demonstration is execute automation build pool, and I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see here, it says auto provision queues in project collections, which means we don't have to manually go to the pool and then assign this particular agent for that particular queue. Rather, it will automatically assign this particular agent pool to that particular queue. So if I uncheck this, then it won't be doing. So let this be checked for now, and I'm going to hit OK. Alright, so now our agent is ready, but it's not yet registered and it is not yet fully configured. The first thing we need to do is to install this particular agent pool for our Team Foundation Server 2015 to start using it in our build process. So for that, we need to first of all install this particular agent. So installation of this agent, as like the XAML build, as you install the build controller and agent, all those things not required in this particular VNEXT of this particular agents. Rather, you can just download this guy, the download zip of this particular agent. So if you download this, this is going to bring you up the particular agent, and it's just downloading. And once it is downloaded, you can see it's actually just a simple PS file, and also it has some kind of assemblies which is required for that particular agent. So let me quickly show you what it has downloaded. So this is the agent contents which we have downloaded in the zip file. So I'm going to copy this, guys, and then I'm going to the D colon, and I'm going to create a folder called EA agent, and then I'm going to paste the contents of the zip file. And as you can see, there is a folder called agent, and there is a PowerShell script like PS1. And if you can see in this particular folder, there are some kind of assemblies which is required for that particular agent, and there is a worker folder which is again some kind of assemblies which is required for the agent. So the first thing we need to do with this particular agent is to install this particular agent to configure with our Team Foundation Server 2015. So for doing that, what I'm going to do is I need to run this particular PowerShell script. So for running the PowerShell script, you can just type PowerShell, and this will open the particular console for the PowerShell. And currently I'm in administrator mode, so I don't have any problem to run this particular PS file. So I'm going to just type configure agent.ps1 and hit enter. So it says that do you want to run the untrusted publisher. Of course it is trusted for me right now, so I'm going to say R, which is going to run only once. So it's unblocking the file, and now it brings me up a command prompt. As you can see here, this command prompt is asking me to enter the name for the agent, and the default is the agent server. So it's just asking me to enter the name of the particular agent. So I'm gonna say the agent is nothing but our, let's give the same name as you can as you created in the agent pool, so EA build pool. All right, so I'm gonna give EA agent, and I'm gonna hit enter, and then it's gonna ask me to enter the URL for the Team Foundation server. The default is it's not showing you anything, so I'm going to just enter the path or the URL of our server. So it is nothing but server colon 8080/TFS. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to configure our agent against which pool. So it's asking me which pool you need to give, and the default pool name is default. So the pool which we have created here is EA build pool. So I'm going to give this EA build pool and hit enter, and then it's asking me the path of the work folder for this particular agent, and this is the path where all your build sits in. Maybe the build that you are doing for your application and all your source codes which is compiled and built is going to be sitting under this particular folder. That's where it's locating. So it's asking me which path you're going to enter, but I'm going to leave this default for now. I'm going to just hit enter, and then it's asking me, would you like to install the agent as a Windows service? I'm going to say yes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my credentials here. So it is going to be my administrator. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to ask me the password and hit enter. So it is authenticating and it's going to install, and it's installing the service, and now the service is installed. So now as you can see here, my agent is up and running, and if you go to the agent pool, you can see that it is refreshing. And if you go to the EA build pool, you can see it is in green color, meaning it is enabled, and these are the system capabilities and user capabilities for this particular build agent. And you can see this is the agent name, this is the agent version, and these are the .NET supported and the computer name, and all those informations is there. So very simple installation, and as you can see, it is just an X copy. You just copy the particular agent file by downloading it as zip file from here and just install it. So this is easily designed because of the cross-platform. Alright, so these are the capabilities of the agent pool. So what I'm going to do next is I need to assign the queue. So since we have automatically checked the particular pool to be automatically assigned to the particular queue, you don't have to worry about it, but I will just show you where the queue is going to be and how to see how the queue looks like. So for that, I'm going to go over the control panel again, and here you can go to the employee project, and you can select any one of the security, and here there is an option called default collections. So if you go there, you can see there is an option called build. You can go here, and here you can see there is a EA build pool. If you click this, you can see that the queue for this particular pool is automatically created. So if you select this new queue, you can see what I'm really talking about. So if I select this EA build pool, and if I hit OK, it will automatically create. Since the queue is already there, it is not going to create one again. So I'm going to hit cancel. So it is automatically assigned for us. And now we can use this particular queue to be assigned in any one of the collection. So let me go to the control panel again, or let me go to the home page of this particular Team Foundation server, and let me select the project, which is nothing but the employee project, and then let me go to the build, and here you can actually create your build definition using the queue which you have created. So we are going to talk about this creating the new build definition using the new version of the build system, which is available with the Team Foundation Server 2015 in the next video of this video series. So stay tuned guys, we'll talk more about that next video. Thank you very much for watching this video and have a great day. Hello guys, this is Karthik from XAML.com, and this is part 15 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part, we're going to talk about creating build definition with VNEXT build in Team Foundation Server. And as you can see, this is the continuation of part 14 of this video series, since we have created the build agent pools and agent queues in that particular video. So it's going to be a complete continuation of that video. So let's not waste our time and flip to Chrome. So in the last video of this video series, we just created the new agent pool and also the agent queue, and also we talked that this is the place where you can create the build definition using the queues that you have created. So the first and foremost thing which we're going to do is creating the build definition. And as you can see, the XAML build definitions that we have created in the part 12 and 13 of this video series, it was pretty straightforward. You just did everything using the Visual Studio itself. But here we're not going to use the Visual Studio at all, since Visual Studio usage using the wizard was kind of little tricky, and it's not much tricky of course, but the power of using a lot of stuffs was limited in that particular XAML build definition. Whereas in the new Team Foundations build version, you can see that the build system is completely revamped and it is taken from the ground up, and it has addresses a lot of the problems which were faced by the developers so far. And for creating it, you can really do it in the GUI based fashion, and it's pretty easy and intuitive. So for that, I'm going to click this plus sign by selecting this build definition, and I'm going to click this plus action, and you can see there is a build definition template this time, and it says which kind of build you're going to do. Are you going to deal with the Visual Studio build, or are you going to do the Xamarin, Android, or the iOS, or Xcode, which means you can also do these templates for the Mac OS build agents. So currently I don't have a Mac, and also I don't have Xamarin for Android and iOS, so I'm not going to deal with. And as you can see, this VNEXT is completely cross-platform, meaning it supports multiple kinds of environments right now. So I'm going to select this Visual Studio this time, and I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see that it brings me up a new screen, and it has a different kinds of steps available. And you can also add the steps if you want to, and you can see there are a lot of steps. You can also add the utilities, you can add some test, and you can see there is a cloud-based load testing, cloud-based web performance testing, or Visual Studio test, Visual Studio test agent deployment, Visual Studio test using test agents, or Xamarin Test Cloud. A lot of features. And also you can use the packages if you want to add, and also you can deploy it in any kind of services which is available. You want to deploy it in Azure cloud service, or you want to deploy it in a machine, or do you want to do Xcopy using Windows machine file copy, or whatever you want to do. You can do everything using the steps. Everything is pretty much there. Just clicking the add will do everything for you. So I'm not going to go over here in this particular video of this video series. Rather, we're going to talk more about that in upcoming videos of the next video series maybe. So I'm going to close that. And here you can see that it's looking for the solution, and currently whichever solution is there, it just picks up. But rather I'm going to select the solution, which is nothing but our employee application solution. So I'm going to select that and hit OK. And if you want, you can specify the MS-build argument here. Of course, I'm not going to give anything here. And the platform is going to be the current platform, which you can also specify if you want to. And the configuration is OK. And if you want to clean the build before starting to build it, you can. And also there is a restore NuGet packages. If you want to, you can restore that as well. And then there's an advanced option where you can specify the version of Visual Studio and the version of the MS build and everything. So currently everything is latest for me, so I'm going to select this and I'm going to leave this as it is. So the advanced is okay for me. And the control options, so do you want this option to be enabled, or do you want to continue on error or always run? All those options you can select it here as well. So this is pretty much fine for me right now. And Visual Studio test, do you want to run some kind of test? If you want to, of course my build has, of course my application has some test, and if I don't specify anything, it will automatically take whichever method has the test in it and it will start running. So let that be here. So I'm not going to change anything here as well. And it says index source and publish symbols, so I don't want this, of course. So I'm going to delete that and publish build artifact. So where are you going to publish that? So let this be here. And then I'm going to go over to this option, and here you can see there are a lot of options available, like multi-configuration. So continue running other configurations on failure. So whichever configurations you want to give, are you going to run this particular build parallelly? Even you can specify that as well. So I'm not going to deal with this guy right now. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is the most important thing, which is nothing but the triggers. And this is where the continuous integration kicks in. And you can see that if I select this will say whether build each check-in. So if a developer checks in a code, then do you want to create a build and do a batch changes, of course. So you can select that as well. Or if you want to do a scheduled build, so let's say I want to run the particular build definition during a particular scheduled off time, so you can do that as well. So I'm gonna do this manual for now. So if I do a queue new build, it'll automatically execute. So I'm going to leave this unchecked, and then let's go to the general, and this is where you can specify what are the demands required for this particular build. So currently the demand of this particular build is MS Test, Visual Studio, and VS Test. So it's all there already. If you think your build has some more demands, you can add the demand as well if you want to. So I don't have any, so I'm going to just leave this as well, and I'm going to save this. And let's give a name for this particular build definition. So I'm going to say first EA, or maybe employee EA app build def, and I'm going to give some comment here, first build definition, and I'm going to hit OK. All right, our build definition is created. And if you go to the history, this is a very interesting tab, and this is one of the most requested feature as well. And you can see that it has an history, and it also says changed by administrator, and this is the date and time, and the administrator has added this build definition, and this is the comment which has been given. And let's say if for some reason I go to the trigger and maybe I just select this continuous integration, and then if I do a save, it will ask me the comment, and you can say here like added CI feature, and if I hit OK, and now if you go to the history, you can see that the new comment is being added. So whichever change is done by whom, all these changes will be recorded in here, and you can see that in the history tab. So these are all the greatest features of this particular build definitions in the new build system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this build and see how it works. So for that, I'm going to hit this queue new build, and let's queue this build. And now you can see that it's asking me the most important thing, which is nothing but which queue you're going to select. So currently we're not going to use the default, rather we're going to use the EA build pool which we just created in our last video of this video series. So I'm going to select that. I'm not going to give the self set name, and let this be the same, and the demand is fine. Whatever demand is there already is still okay, and I'm going to hit OK. So now you can see that our build has been queued, and it says the build not started yet, and it's waiting for the queue to be available. Once the agent is available, it will automatically start. So you can see that it has got the agent and it's executing. It's looking more familiar for you guys if you are working with the PowerShell. This is pretty much the PowerShell window that you are seeing here. So it's executing, it's pretty much real time, and you can see what our action has been performing. So it's running the task, starting the build solutions, and it also runs everything for you. And you can also see what's been happening. So get the source, building the solutions, testing the assemblies, and publishing the artifacts in the drop folder. So our test should fail. All right, as expected, the test got failed, and it's publishing the artifact in the drop folder. All right, so the build failed. That's okay. We know that it's going to fail because I intentionally made this to fail. And you can see that the artifact is available for us in this particular folder location. So if I just copy this path and if I navigate to this particular location, you can see that our employee application is available here, and it has all the assemblies you can see here, and the employee test, and also the PF service. So everything is available for us in the artifacts folder, and you can see the work folder. So this is the file which is created. All right, so this is how you can create a very simple build definition using the VNEXT, or the new build definition system, which is available in Team Foundation Server 2015. So you can see the test result as well. So let's say if I want to see the test result, then you can just go to this test tab, and you just go to the runs, and here comes your test runs which has happened. So it has completed. All right, and you can see that one test case got failed and 5 test cases got passed. So totally it has executed 6 test cases, and here is the result. So actually we'll talk more about this testing stuffs in upcoming videos of this video series, so don't worry about it yet. This is how you can actually see the test results. So this is just a heads up that I'm giving you, and you can see all the results here. All right, so that's it, guys. This is how you can create the build definitions in the new build system, and also you can execute the build using the new build system. So thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day. Hi, this is Karthik from XAML.com, and this is part 16 of our ALM with Team Foundation Server Dev and QA focused video series. And in this part, we'll be talking about executing unit test with Team Foundation Server 2015. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 14 and 15, since this part will have some continuation from that part. All right. So what are we going to do in this particular video is to see how the unit testing can be done with Team Foundation Server 2015. So if you have already watched part 15, we created the build definition, and while we executed the build definition, we saw that there were some kind of test being executed as a part of the build execution, and we also saw there was a report generated in the test run, and we saw how the test was actually executed and how many tests got failed. So how is that happening behind the scenes? So that's what we're going to discuss in this particular video. So for that, I'm going to flip to Visual Studio. So this is my Visual Studio, and I have the Team Explorer, and you can see that I have selected the employee project, which we have been discussing so long. And this is the solution which I'm going to show you where the unit test is actually sitting. So I'm going to just double click this to open the solution. And you can see that this is my project, and this is my employee test project within this solution. And you can see that I have a very simple unit test1.cs file. And you can see that it actually has some kind of unit test cases which is written against the application which we have built. And you can see that this test case is actually talking about mock, and this mock is again yet another video series which we already discussed in our execute automation video series. And you can see that from here in the video series which is available in execute automation channel. So we created all these test cases in this particular video series. So if you want to have a greater understanding of how this mocking framework is working, you can look at here. So these are the test cases which is actually being executed against our application which we built, and you can see that these are nothing but some of the unit test cases. All right, so if you want to run and see how the test case looks like, if I build the solution and if I go to the test explorer, and you can see that we have a set of test cases available, and there is a test case which I intentionally made this to fail so that we can see the failed test case as well. So what I'm going to do is I will run all the passing test cases, and if I run the selected test case, you can see that all the test case will execute and the test cases will pass. So you can see that the 5 test cases got passed, and this is the another test case which will actually fail. So if I run the selector test, you can see that the test will run and it will fail for sure, right? So this is what is actually happening in our project. So these are the test cases which we have for this particular test, and that's what is happening behind the scene in our build definition as well. So if I select the employee project and then I go to the build, and here's our employee EA app build definitions, and once I click this edit, you can see that we have a Visual Studio test as a step, and you can see that it's actually selecting the test.dll, which means whichever DLL has a test in it, it will automatically select that particular DLL as a test project, and it will try to find if there is any test method as an annotation or attribute, and then it will try to run them. So you can see that our project has a test in its project name, so its DLL is again going to have a test in it, and there are unit tests as well, right? And you can see that it has test method as an attribute for our test methods, right? So that's why it is automatically selecting the tests and it is running them. So now if I once again try to queue this build, and if I run this particular build using the EA pool which we created, and if I hit OK, so you can see that the build is now executing, and it has took all the sources, it is now building the solution, and then it will test our build against the test that we have, and then it will publish the artifacts to the drop folder. And now you can see that one of our test method is actually a failing test case. That's what is happening here. You can see that there is a failing test and the remaining test got passed. It is publishing the artifact to the drop folder. So the build got failed, and now if I go to the test tab, you can see there is an option called runs. So if I click that runs, you can see that the test which we just executed will be appearing here. And now if I just double click that particular test run, you can see there is a run summary, and within this run summary you can see that what is the outcome of the test and how many tests got passed and how many tests got failed, and then you can see what is not available and what has got passed and what is the failures, and also you can see the attachment of the error, so you can get the complete report as a TRX file here. So these are the way that you can run the test, not only just from the Visual Studio, but also you can run the test and see how the test is executing from the build definitions. So this is how you can run the test from the build definition in Visual Studio Team Foundation Server 2015. So thank you very much for watching this video, and have a great day.